Celeste Vale raised her champagne glass and introduced me as Adrienne's little house problem in front of 200 guests. My husband stood beside her with his hand on her bare waist and told me very quietly to take our son and leave before I embarrassed him. I did not cry. I only tightened my fingers around Leo's small hand, walked to the guest book, and wrote the name Adrienne had spent 6 years trying to hide. Celeste Bale knew exactly where to send the invitation. Not to Adrienne's office, not to the charity board, not even to the townhouse where he received clients and let journalists photograph him beside white orchids and expensive art. She sent it to the quiet house in Westbrook, the one with the blue front door, the one Adrienne always called temporary, even though I had lived there for 6 years. The envelope was cream-colored, thick, and expensive. My name was written in slanted gold ink. Mrs. Nora Grant. Not Eleanor. Not Hawthorne. Not even my full married name. Just Nora Grant, as if I were a footnote attached to my husband's life. Inside was a card for Grant Meridian Group's 6th anniversary charity gala. Beneath the printed details, someone had written a note by hand. You should come. It may help you understand your place. There was no signature. There did not need to be. Celeste had been leaving perfume on Adrienne's jackets for months. She had been laughing too loudly in the background of his calls. She had been photographed beside him at hotel openings, investor, brunches, and hospital foundation dinners. The captions called her public relations consultant, but the way she leaned into him said something else. Adrienne always had an explanation. She handles optics. She understands the social side. You hate those events anyway. You and Leo are safer out of the spotlight. I had believed him longer than I liked to admit. That was the embarrassing part. Not that he betrayed me. Betrayal happens behind locked doors every day. The humiliating part was that I had helped him build the door. I had stayed home when he asked. I had signed quiet transfer approvals when his company needed liquidity. I had let him use my calm, my silence, and my family's old name without ever saying that name aloud. For years, I thought restraint was dignity. Then Celeste mailed me an invitation, like a slap wrapped in linen paper that night. I put Leo to bed and sat at the kitchen table with the card under the light. My son was 5. He had Adrienne's dark eyes, my father's stubborn chin, and a way of asking questions that made lies feel cruel. Is Daddy coming this weekend? He had asked before sleep. I had brushed hair away from his forehead and said he would try. Even then, I hated the answer. Try had become Adrienne's favorite word for fatherhood. Try to come. Try to call. Try to make it up to you. Try not to make this difficult. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Mara Reed. Mara had known me since my father died. She was older than me by 10 years, sharp-eyed and impossible to charm. She had reviewed my prenup. She had structured the Hawthorne Legacy Trust after my father's stroke. She had also warned me before my wedding that love made intelligent women sign foolish things. I had laughed, then I did not laugh. Now I received something. I told her from Adrienne from Celeste. There was a pause. Send me a photo. I did. 30 seconds later, Mara said, do not answer her. I was not planning to. Do not confront Adrienne either. I was planning to attend. Another pause longer. This time Mara did not tell me not to go. That was why I trusted her. Then attend carefully. She said, take your own car. Do not drink anything you. Do not open yourself. Keep your phone recording only where it is legal. And Nora, yes, use your real name. My hand tightened around the phone for 6 years. Adrienne had asked me not to. At first, it had sounded reasonable. Hawthorne was not famous in the celebrity sense. We were not actors or politicians, but in old charitable circles, hospital boards, private foundations, and infrastructure investments. The name opened doors quietly and closed them even more quietly. My grandfather built bridges. My father funded clinics and libraries. Our trust had rescued 3 companies during recessions, and refused to put our name on a single glass tower. Adrian used to admire that. Then he started resenting it. People treat me differently when they know. He told me after our wedding. They stopped seeing my work. So, I became Nora Grant in public. Eleanor Hawthorne stayed on legal documents, trust papers, property deeds, and bank records. Eleanor Hawthorne signed the first emergency loan that kept Grant Meridian alive. Nora Grant packed Adrian's suitcases, raised our son, hosted his mother at holidays, and smiled when he said, "It's not the right time to announce everything. There is always a right time to hide a woman. There is never a right time to honor her." On the night of the gala, I wore a black dress that had belonged to my mother. Simple, no glitter, no desperate message. I pinned my hair low and put on pearl earrings my father had given me when I graduated college. Then I opened the small safe in my bedroom. Inside were Leo's birth certificate, my marriage license, the trust seal, and a folder Mara had told me to keep updated. Bank transfers, property records, emails from Adrian asking me to approve temporary funding, messages where he promised again and again that he would publicly acknowledge our family once the company was stable. I did not take the whole folder, only copies. I also took the invitation. Leo came downstairs in a navy blazer, frowning at his sleeves. "Do I have to wear this?" "Only for a little while." "Is Daddy there?" "Yes." His face brightened, and the hope of it hurt me more than Celeste's note. I knelt in front of him. "Leo, there may be a lot of people tonight. Some may say things they do not understand. You stay with me." "Okay." He nodded. "Are we surprising, Daddy?" I looked at the invitation on the hall table. "Yes," I said. "I think we are." The gala was held at the Allison Hotel. All marble floors and gold lighting. Adrian had once told me he wanted Grant Meridian to hold an event there because serious donors respect old rooms. He had said it while sitting barefoot on our kitchen floor eating takeout with Leo asleep against his chest. That version of him felt like a man I had invented at the entrance. Photographers, lifted cameras. For a second, no one recognized me. That had been the point of my life for years. I could enter a room funded by my own family and be treated like someone who had wandered in through the wrong door. A young woman at registration smiled politely. "Name?" Before I could answer, a voice cut through the air. "Oh my God, you actually came." Celeste Vale moved toward me as if she owned the floor. She was beautiful in a silver dress that caught every light. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves, and her smile had the practiced warmth of a woman who had rehearsed kindness in front of mirrors. Behind her stood Adrian. My husband wore a black tuxedo, and the expression of a man watching a private mistake walk into a public room. His eyes dropped to Leo for 1 second. Something like panic crossed his face. Then Celeste saw the child and laughed softly. "You brought him," she said. "That is bold." Leo pressed closer to my side. Adrian stepped forward. "Nora, what are you doing here?" I held up the invitation. I was invited. Celeste tilted her head. "I thought it was only polite. You know, closure. Women deserve closure." A few people nearby slowed down. The air around us began to gather listeners. Adrian lowered his voice. "This is not the place." "No," I said, "it rarely is." Celeste smiled wider. "Please do not make this dramatic. Tonight is important for Adrian." "For Adrian," I repeated. "For the company," she corrected. "For everyone who believes in him." I looked at my husband. "Do you believe in him, Adrian?" His jaw tightened. "Take Leo home." Leo looked up at him. "Daddy." The word landed harder than any accusation. Celeste's smile flickered. Someone behind us whispered, "Daddy." Adrianine's face went cold. Not with guilt, with calculation. "Nora," he said, "do not do this." That was when Celeste made her mistake. She touched Adrienne's sleeve and turned to the gathering guests with a small laugh. "I am so sorry," she said. Every successful man has one complicated piece of the past. Adrienne's little house problem was supposed to understand boundaries. The room went quiet enough for me to hear the ice shifting in someone's glass. My son did not understand every word, but he understood tone. His fingers tightened around mine. Adrienne did not correct her. He did not say, "This is my wife." He did not say, "This is my son." He said, "Nora, please leave before you embarrass yourself." There are moments when love does not die slowly. It stands in a bright room, looks at the man it protected, and realizes he has been using its body as a shield. I turned away from him and walked back to the registration table. The young woman stared at me, pale and uncertain. "Name?" she asked again, barely above a whisper. I picked up the pen. For 6 years, I had written the name Adrienne preferred for 6 years. I had folded myself small enough to fit inside his ambition. That night, I wrote in clean, steady letters, Eleanor Hawthorne Grant. Then beneath it, I wrote Leo Hawthorne Grant. The woman at the table froze behind her. Margaret Allison rose from her chair. Margaret was 72, silver-haired and still powerful enough to make bankers sit straighter. She had served on my father's trust committee for 20 years. She had known me when I wore braces. She had sent flowers when Leo was born. Her eyes moved from my face to Leo's. Then she stood fully. "Eleanor," she said, her voice carrying through the marble hall. "We have been waiting for you, one by one." The people at the sponsor table stood. Then the hospital board chair stood. Then 2 senior partners from Langford and Pike. Then the mayor, who had accepted Hawthorne Clinic funding 3 months earlier and knew exactly whose name had been missing from the program. The ripple moved through the room like a curtain lifting. Celeste stopped smiling. Adrienne looked at the guest book as if the ink had become a knife. Margaret walked toward me, ignoring him completely, and bent to Leo. "And this," she said warmly, "must be your son." Leo nodded, shy but proud. "I am Leo." "No," Margaret said, smiling. "You are Leo Hawthorne Grant. That is a name worth standing for." The room did, and for the first time in 6 years, I did not feel hidden. I felt seen. Adrienne took 1 step toward me. "Nora." I looked at him then, not at the man I married, at the man who had just heard my name and finally understood the cost of forgetting it. "Do not call me that tonight," I said. "You have not earned the familiar version of me." I did not stay for dinner that surprised people more than my arrival. Public humiliation expects a public breakdown. Celeste expected tears. Adrienne expected pleading. The guests expected some kind of scene, because people who witness cruelty often want the victim to give them a performance that explains their discomfort. I gave them nothing. Margaret walked us to a private sitting room behind the ballroom. She asked if Leo wanted lemonade. He did. She asked if I wanted a minute. I did not. I wanted a record. "Margaret," I said, "who manages the hotel security footage tonight?" Her expression shifted. She understood immediately. "I will have the general manager preserve everything from the front entrance, registration table, ballroom, and main hall." "Thank you." Adrienne appeared at the doorway 2 minutes later. He did not knock. That was another small thing I had stopped noticing during marriage. Adrienne entered rooms as if permission was a courtesy other people needed. "Nora, we need to talk." Margaret's mouth tightened. I placed my hand on Leo's shoulder, not in front of him. Adrienne glanced at our son, irritation flashing before he hit it. That flash ended something in me. Not because he was angry at me. I could survive anger. I had survived loneliness, excuses, canceled birthdays, and his mother's polite contempt. But irritation at a child who had only asked to be seen by his father. "No, Margaret," I said, "would you take Leo to choose a dessert?" Leo looked up. "Can I have chocolate?" "You can have 2 chocolates," Margaret said, offering him her hand when the door closed. Behind them, Adrienne exhaled sharply. What the hell was that? A guest check-in. Do not play games with me. I looked at him carefully. He was still handsome. That annoyed me. Betrayal should leave visible marks on the betrayer. There should be a stain on the collar, a crack in the face, something to warn the next woman. But Adrian looked polished and wounded, as if I had wronged him by refusing to remain invisible. You brought Leo into this, he said. Celeste invited me into this. You should have called me. I did not realize I needed your permission to attend a party where my family's trust is listed as a founding donor. His eyes flicked away. There it was. He had not forgotten. He had only hoped I had. Nora, tonight is complicated. Your mistress called me your house problem. She was nervous. She was cruel. She does not know the full situation. I laughed once. It sounded strange in that elegant room. Whose fault is that? He rubbed his forehead. I was going to handle it. How? No answer. By letting her wear your hand on her waist in front of everyone. By letting her imply she was your partner. By letting her mock me while our son stood beside me. His mouth tightened. You never liked public life. I never liked being lied to. That is not fair. I stared at him. He had used that phrase for years. Not fair. It was not fair when I asked why Celeste was at private dinners. It was not fair when I said Leo needed consistency. It was not fair when I refused to let his mother call my house the place Nora stays. It was not fair when I wanted my marriage to exist outside tax documents. Do you know what is unfair? I asked a 5-year-old hearing his father ask him to leave before he embarrasses him. Adrienne's face changed. Only a little guilt, maybe. Or fear of being thought guilty. I did not mean Leo. You said it while looking at him. He stepped closer. I panicked. Why? Because you know how these events work. People twist things. No, I said, people reveal things. A knock came at the door. Mara Reed entered before Adrian could respond. I had texted her from the car before we arrived. 3 words. I am going in. She must have driven faster than the law allowed. Mara wore a dark suit and no expression. She looked at Adrian as if he were a clause she intended to remove. Mr. Grant, Mara, he said coldly, this is private. No. She said it became a matter of legal interest when your consultant publicly misrepresented Mrs. Grant's relationship to you and to the company's largest legacy funding source. His eyes narrowed. You called a lawyer. I picked up my purse. I called her before I came. That was the first moment he looked truly afraid. Not because of divorce. Not yet. Because he realized my calm had not been shock. It had been preparation. We left through the side entrance. Margaret brought Leo back with a chocolate tart in a small white box and kissed my cheek. You should have come as yourself years ago, she whispered. I know. No, she said gently. You believed someone who asked you to disappear. That is not the same thing. In the car, Leo fell asleep before we reached the freeway. His tart sat untouched in his lap. I looked at him in the rear view mirror and let the anger arrive. Not hot. Hot anger burns too quickly. Mine came cold and precise at home. I carried him upstairs. He woke just enough to murmur. Did Daddy like the surprise? I sat on the edge of his bed. Daddy was surprised. I said Leo accepted that children are generous with adults who do not deserve it. After he slept, I went downstairs and opened the folder from the safe. I spread my marriage across the kitchen table. Marriage license signed 6 years ago at a courthouse with 2 witnesses, one of whom was Adrienne's college roommate and the other my father's nurse prenuptial agreement. Clear separation of Hawthorne assets. Loan agreement. Hawthorne Legacy Trust to Grant Meridian Group. Emergency liquidity support. Renewable under trustee approval. Property deed. Westbrook House. Owned solely by Eleanor Hawthorne before marriage. Bank transfer records. Personal monthly deposits from my account to cover Adrienne's mother's medical premiums. His sister's apartment during rehab. And temporary household support he never repaid. Emails. So many emails. Nora, Can you approve this draw by Friday? Nora, just one more quarter. Nora, it is better if your name stays out of the announcement. Nora, Celeste is handling optics. Please do not make this weird. I open the newest automatic transfer page. $25. 000 scheduled for Monday. Labeled as always. Grant family support. It had begun when Adrienne's father died and Patricia Grant claimed she did not know how to manage her expenses. Then it expanded. A repair bill. A tax issue. A club membership Adrienne said was necessary for networking. I hovered over the button. Then I canceled it. No ceremony. No trembling. Just a click. After that, I logged into the trust portal. The next discretionary review for Grant Meridian's bridge support was scheduled in 2 weeks. Adrienne had assumed renewal would be automatic because it always had been. I changed the status. Manual review required. Then I forwarded the gala invitation to Mara along with photos of the guest book and the program listing Hawthorne Legacy Trust as founding sponsor. At 1:13 a.m. Adrian called. I watched his name light up my phone. Adrian Grant. Not husband. Not love. Just a name attached to too many withdrawals. I let it ring. He called again. Then he texted, "We need to discuss what you did tonight." I typed back one sentence. Yes. Through counsel. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then his reply came. Do not make me the enemy. Nora. I looked at the canceled transfer confirmation on my laptop. You did that yourself, I said to the empty kitchen. Then I removed my wedding ring and placed it on top of the invitation Celeste had sent to hurt me. For the first time in years, my hand felt lighter. By morning, Celeste had turned herself into a victim. I knew before I finished my coffee because my phone started vibrating with messages from people who had not remembered I existed the day before. Is everything okay? I saw a post. Is that about you, Nora? Call me. The post was elegant, vague, and poisonous. Celeste had uploaded a photo of herself from the gala balcony. She was looking away from the camera, eyes lowered as if caught in a private moment of pain. The caption read, "Some women mistake a man's kindness for ownership." Last night reminded me that success attracts not only admiration but old shadows. I choose grace. I almost admired the efficiency. She had insulted me publicly, stood beside my husband as if she were his partner, watched him tell our son to leave, and still managed to call herself graceful before noon. Adrian did not post anything that was his style. Silence when silence benefited him. Speeches when applause was guaranteed. At 9:40 a.m. Mara called. Have you seen it? Yes. Do not respond. I know. I am sending a preservation letter to the hotel. Margaret already had the footage secured, but we are making it formal. Good. I am also requesting all promotional materials Celeste prepared for the gala. There may be a bigger issue. I closed my laptop halfway. What issue? She used the phrase in partnership with the Hawthorne Legacy Initiative in donor packets. Did you authorize her firm to use that language? No. Did Adrian? He does not have authority. Exactly. I looked toward the living room where Leo was building a wooden train track. He had arranged the bridge pieces carefully, testing each connection before adding more. My father would have loved that. Send me everything. I said, I will. Also, Adrienne's attorney contacted my office. I leaned back. That was fast. Men who say they hate lawyers usually have one waiting. What does he want? A private meeting. No formal filings. He wants to resolve the misunderstanding. I stared at Celeste's caption again. Old shadows. She called me a shadow. I said. Mara's voice softened. Then we will bring documents into the light. At noon, Adrian came to the house. He used his key, or tried to. The lock blinked red. I had changed the access code at 800 a.m. He rang the bell 3 times. I watched him through the camera. He looked tired, angry. and offended, as if the door itself had betrayed him. I opened it, but left the chain on. His eyes dropped to the gap. Really? Yes. This is my home. No. It is my property. You have lived here by invitation. His face hardened. Do not start with legal technicalities. They are only technicalities when they protect me. He took a breath. I watched him choose a softer voice. Nora last night got out of control. Celeste got out of control. She was hurt. I almost closed the door instead. I said, "By what?" His eyes flicked past me, searching for Leo. "Can I come in?" "No." "Nora." "No." That small word felt unfamiliar in my mouth. Not because I had never said it, but because I had never let it. Stand alone. Adrian looked down the street, embarrassed by the possibility of neighbors seeing him locked out. "I need you to sign something." Of course he did. He pulled a folded document from his coat. "What is it?" "A short statement. Nothing dramatic. Just that you attended unexpectedly." Emotions ran high, and Celeste did not intend harm. I looked at him through the narrow opening. "You want me to publicly apologize to your mistress?" "I want to calm the situation. Then tell the truth. That would damage everyone." "No. I said it would damage you." His jaw flexed. "She is being attacked online because she lied online. She was reacting. So was I. When I wrote my name that hit." His eyes sharpened. "You knew what would happen." "I hoped people would remember my father. I did not know they would stand. That name carries weight. It always did. You never cared about that before. I cared enough not to use it as a weapon. You cared enough to use it as a wallet." His face flushed for a moment. I saw the man beneath the polish. Not the visionary CEO. Not the devoted philanthropist. Just a man furious that a woman he underestimated had described him accurately. "I built Grant Meridian." He said, "Yes. My work. Yes. My risks. Some of them." I said, "And when those risks became bills, you brought them home to me." His voice dropped. "Do not do this in front of Leo." I looked behind me. Leo was not in the hallway. I had taken him to my neighbor's house when the doorbell rang. I had learned from the night before that Adrian would weaponize any child in the room by pretending to protect him. "He is not here." Adrian looked unsettled. "You sent him away." I protected him from another conversation where his father avoids being his father. He flinched. It was small but real. Then his phone rang. The screen lit up with Celeste's name. Neither of us moved. He silenced it. "Too late." I smiled without humor. "You should answer. She may need grace. Nora through counsel." I reminded him. He held up the statement. "If you do not sign this, it becomes ugly." It became ugly when she invited me as a joke. She did not. I reached to the small table beside the door and lifted the cream envelope. "Would you like to read the note?" He looked at it for the first time. Uncertainty entered his expression. He had not known about the handwritten line that mattered. Not because it excused him. It did not. But because it showed Celeste was not only cruel. She was careless, and careless enemies leave evidence. I slid a copy of the invitation through the gap. "Keep it," I said. "Mara already has the original." He stared at the words. "You should come. It may help you understand your place." His face went still. "She wrote this. You tell me. You know her handwriting better than I do." He looked up. "I did not know. And yet you knew enough to let her humiliate me." "Nora." I panicked. "You keep saying that like panic is a separate person who borrowed your mouth." He had no answer. Behind him, a black SUV slowed at the curb. A woman stepped out in cream trousers and oversized sunglasses. Celeste for a second. I thought the morning could not become more absurd. Then she removed her sunglasses and looked at the chained door. "Oh," she said softly, "he really is locked out." Adrian turned. "Celeste." "Not now." She ignored him. Her eyes moved to me with bright satisfaction. "Nora." "I came to apologize." "No. You came to see damage." Her smile thinned. "You caused a scene at a charity event. You invited me. As a courtesy. As bait. Adrian looked between us. He was finally seeing the shape of it, but too slowly to matter. Celeste stepped closer. You know, clinging to a man through a child is not dignity. I felt a clean, cold line draw itself inside me. A child? I asked. She lifted one shoulder. Adrian told me it was complicated. Adrian said her name sharply. Celeste. But she was committed now. He is generous. Too generous. But everyone knows you. Cannot build a marriage out of old paperwork and a little boy who needs a last name. The world narrowed. Not around me. Around the mistake she had just made. I opened the door as far as the chain allowed and looked directly at her. Leo has a last name. I said he has two, actually. One from the father who hides him. One from the family that will protect him. Celeste's eyes flickered. I closed the door. Then I called Mara. She mentioned Leo. I said Mara's voice sharpened. In what way? In a way I want documented. Write it down now. Exact words. I did. By evening, Mara had obtained the hotel footage. By midnight, she had found another gift. Celeste's assistant, apparently underpaid and overexposed, had forwarded donor packet drafts to the wrong email chain. In those drafts, Celeste had described herself as strategic partner to Adrian Grant and future public face of the Hawthorne Grant philanthropic expansion. Future public face of my family's name. The next morning, Mara sent me one line. She was not just after your husband. She was after the name. I looked at Leo eating cereal at the kitchen island, humming to himself. Then I looked at the wedding ring, still lying beside the invitation. Celeste wanted a crown. She had mistaken it for jewelry. She did not understand that some names are not worn. They are carried. Leo's school called on Thursday, not because he was sick, not because he had fallen, because another child had asked why his father was on the internet with a shiny lady and not with him. The teacher, Mrs. Patel, sounded careful. Leo became upset during art time. He did not hurt anyone. He just crawled under the reading table and would not come out. I gripped the phone. I am on my way. When I arrived, Leo was sitting in the nurse's office with his knees pulled to his chest. His little blazer from the gala hung on a hook beside him because he had asked to wear it again that morning. He thought it made him look brave. The sight of it almost broke me. Mrs. Patel left us alone, and I sat on the floor, not in the chair. Adults in chairs tower over children with pain. I had learned that from my father after my mother died. Hey, bridge builder, I said softly. Leo looked at me. His eyes were red. Is Daddy married to the shiny lady? No. Is he married to you? Yes. He considered that. Then why did she stand next to him? Because your father let her. Because I let silence grow around you. Because adults can be cowards in expensive clothing. I said because some people stand in places they have not earned. He wiped his nose with his sleeve. A mia secret? The question entered me like a blade. I reached for him. No, but Daddy says I should not be in pictures. He was wrong. Did I do something wrong? No. Baby. Then why does he not come? That was the question I could not soften without lying. So I told him the truth in the only shape a child could hold. Sometimes grown-ups make selfish choices. That does not mean the child is hard to love. It means the grown-up forgot how to love properly. Leo leaned into me. I do not want to be a secret. I closed my eyes. You will not be. That afternoon, I drove to the pediatric clinic where Leo had been treated since birth. I requested full copies of his records, immunizations, emergency visits, insurance forms, parent contact logs. Adrienne's name appeared everywhere. Father Adrian James Grant. Emergency contact. Eleanor Hawthorne Grant. Secondary contact. Adrian James Grant. Number of missed wellness appointments by father. Not recorded because clinic's record presence, not absence. But I remembered. I remembered the fever at 10 months when Adrian stayed at a negotiation dinner. I remembered the speech delay evaluation where Adrian said he had a flight. I remembered Leo's 4th birthday. When Adrian arrived after bedtime with a wrapped toy too advanced for a child he barely knew. Evidence does not capture every wound, but it captures enough. The clinic administrator printed the records and asked if everything was all right. I almost said yes. Women like me are trained by repetition to protect the image of men who fail them. Instead, I said no, but it will be. Then I drove to the private lab where 2 years earlier I had done a DNA test. Not because I doubted Leo's father, because Adrienne's mother had made one poisonous comment too many. Patricia Grant had never said directly that Leo was not Adrienne's. She was too polished for that. She said things like, "He does not have the Grant nose." And well, quiet. Arrangements do create questions. And if Adrian is being generous, you should not punish him for it. At the time, I had cried in the car. Then I had swabbed my child's cheek and Adrian's coffee cup after he left it in the sink. Mara had told me it would be legally cleaner if Adrian participated voluntarily. I had told her I was not ready for that fight. So, she had filed the result privately with the trust's family documentation, not as a custody weapon, but as protection against exactly the kind of lie people like Patricia saved for desperate moments. The lab gave me a certified copy. Probability of paternity, 999, 98%. I sat in the parking lot with the paper on my lap and thought about how absurd it was that a mother had to prove what a father had been allowed to neglect. Adrian called while I was there. I answered because Mara had advised me to communicate only when necessary and preferably in writing. But some conversations reveal useful things. What did you do to the transfer? He asked no hello, no how is Leo, no apology for the school call he did not know about because he had never asked to be listed on the school app. I canceled it. My mother called me crying. I am sure she did. You cannot just cut her off. I can stop paying expenses. I never agreed to carry indefinitely. She is Leo's grandmother. She has not called him in 3 months. That is not the point. It is now. He exhaled sharply. Nora, this is spiraling because you are hurt. Yes, I said I am hurt. And unlike you, I am responding to it by becoming honest. I need you to be reasonable. I was reasonable for 6 years. You mistook it for weakness. Silence. Then he said, Celeste did not mean what she said about Leo. I looked at the DNA result. Interesting. You know what she said now? She told me. Did she tell you the part where she said I was clinging to you through a child? He did not answer. I smiled bitterly. Adrian, did you defend him? She was upset. Did you defend your son? His silence was the answer that signed the end of us. I hung up. Then I texted him. From now on, communication about Leo will be in writing or through counsel. You may request scheduled visitation after we establish terms that protect him from public denial or emotional harm. He replied within seconds. You are overreacting. I saved the message. Then another came. Do not use my son against me. I saved that too. My son. A possessive phrase from a man who had treated fatherhood like a scheduling conflict at home. Leo was in the backyard with Mrs. Alvarez from next door. She was teaching him how to water tomato plants without drowning them. He looked serious, focused, alive in the ordinary way children should be allowed to be. I stood by the kitchen window and made the decision I should have made when Adrian first asked me not to bring Leo to a company picnic because investors prefer simple narratives. I called Mara. I want to file for divorce. Yes. And custody. Yes. Mara was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? I looked at my son, who was laughing now because water had splashed onto his shoes. No, I said, I am done being unsure. That night after Leo fell asleep, I opened a new document and wrote a timeline. Year 1, courthouse wedding. Adrian requested privacy. Year 2, first company loan renewal. Adrian postponed public announcement. Year 3, Leo born. Adrian asked to keep birth announcement private. Year 4, Patricia questioned paternity indirectly. DNA test obtained. Year 5. Celeste hired. Year 6. Celeste invited me to gala. Public humiliation. Adrian failed to acknowledge wife and child. I attached documents to each point, not feelings, facts. At 11:04 p.m., an email arrived from Adrian's subject. Please stop. Nora, I understand you are angry. I should have handled last night differently. But filing legal actions will damage all of us, including Leo. I am asking you to pause before you make choices you cannot undo. I read it twice, then I forwarded it. Tomorrow. My reply was short. Some choices cannot be undone because they should not be. I closed my laptop upstairs. Leo slept with one hand under his cheek. Peaceful for now. I stood in his doorway and made a promise he did not hear. His father had called him inconvenient without using the word. I would make sure no one in our lives ever had that power again. Patricia Grant summoned me to dinner as if I were still an obedient daughter-in-law. Her message arrived through Adrian, which told me she had finally noticed I no longer answer her calls. Mother wants to resolve this as a family. Sunday 7. Please do not bring lawyers. I wrote back. I will come for 1 hour. Leo will not attend. Adrian responded. That will hurt her. I typed good. Then she can practice surviving disappointment. I almost deleted it. Then I sent it. Small freedoms can feel childish when you first use them. Then they become oxygen. Patricia lived in a limestone house Adrian paid to maintain, and I had quietly funded whenever unexpected expenses appeared. She liked to say the Grants valued tradition, by which she meant everyone else should arrange their lives around her comfort. When I arrived Sunday evening, her dining room was set for 5 o'clock. That was my first warning. The second was Celeste's silver purse on the entry table. I stood in the foyer and looked at it. Adrian appeared from the hall. I told her not to come. He said quickly, but she did. She wants to apologize. I looked at him. You keep inviting fire and acting surprised by smoke. His mouth tightened. Can we get through one dinner? That depends. Are you planning to acknowledge reality before dessert? He looked tired, not humbled. Tired? There is a difference. Humbled people understand harm. Tired people want consequences to end. Patricia entered wearing pearls and a navy dress. Nora, she said, as if I had been late to church. You look thin. You look well-ended. Adrian closed his eyes. Patricia stiffened. Excuse me. Nothing. Shall we sit? Celeste was already in the dining room in my chair. I knew it was my chair because Patricia believed in assigned seating as a form of warfare. For 6 years, I had sat to Adrienne's right at family dinners. Not because Patricia respected me, but because optics mattered even at home. Celeste sat there now, fingers resting lightly beside the wine glass, smiling like a woman who had practiced looking natural in stolen places. Nora, she said, thank you for being mature enough to come. I looked at the chair, then at Adrian. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. I sat across from them instead. Patricia took the head of the table. Good, she said. Now we can speak plainly. Please do, I said. She folded her hands. You embarrassed this family. I waited. You walked into an important event unannounced. Used your maiden name to intimidate people and exposed private family matters. Which family matters? Patricia's lips tightened. My marriage? I asked. Your grandson or the trust money you have been accepting for years while pretending I am an inconvenience. Celeste looked down at her plate. Patricia's eyes flashed. Do not speak to me about money. I have been speaking to you through money for 6 years. You understood that language perfectly. Adrian said. Nora. Enough. No. I said enough was the gala. This is after. Patricia leaned forward. You have always been dramatic beneath that quiet act. Adrian needed a partner who could stand beside him, not a woman hiding behind old family papers. Celeste made a soft sound of agreement. I turned to her. Careful. You are only here because you think those old family papers can be transferred by sleeping near my husband. Her face went red. Adrian snapped. Do not speak to her like that. I smiled a little. There he is. The room fell silent. Patricia lifted her chin. We are not here to argue about Celeste. We are here to discuss next steps. Your next steps. Everyone's. She gestured toward Adrian, who looked as if he would rather be negotiating with creditors. Patricia continued, the Westbrook house is not suitable for this conflict. You and Leo should stay elsewhere temporarily. Adrian needs space to repair public perception. I stared at her. She actually believed she was offering a solution. And where would Celeste stay? I asked. Patricia did not blink. That is not your concern. Celeste looked at me with quiet triumph. That was the moment I understood the full shape of their plan. They did not only want me silent. They wanted my home, not forever. Perhaps just long enough to stage photographs. Long enough to move Celeste through the doorway. Long enough to turn my life into a room I had once occupied. I opened my bag and removed a folder. Adrienne's shoulders sank. He had started to recognize folders. I placed the property deed on the table. Westbrook was purchased by the Hawthorne Trust before my marriage. It is titled solely to me. Adrian has no ownership interest, no marital claim under the prenup, and no right to offer it to anyone as a stage set. Patricia's face changed color. Celeste reached for her wine and missed the stem. I added a second document. This is the record of payments made from my personal account toward this house. Taxes, repairs, insurance, not Adrienne's, mine. Adrian spoke quietly. No one said Celeste would move in. I looked at him. No one had to. Celeste recovered first. You are being territorial over bricks, she said. No, I said. I am being clear about boundaries. You should try learning what they look like from the outside. Patricia slapped her palm lightly on the table. You are punishing my son because he found someone who understands his world. I laughed then, not loudly, but enough. His world. Patricia, I funded half the doors he walks through. Adrienne's voice dropped. That is not fair. There is that phrase again. He leaned forward. You think because your family has money, you can humiliate us? No. I think because you humiliated me with my money still in your account. You have become confused about ownership. Celeste stood. I will not sit here and be insulted. I looked up at her. Then leave my family dinner. She froze. The word surprised even me. Not because I believed this was still my family. Because for the first time I understood I had the right to decide who sat at a table with me. Patricia said, "This is my house." And yet, I replied, I have paid the property taxes for the last 18 months. She looked at Adrian. He looked away. There it was again. The silence men use when women discover the bill. I gathered my documents. I came because you said family, but family does not erase a wife. Mock a child, and ask the woman paying the bills to vacate her own home. Adrian stood as I did. Nora, wait. No, we need to talk privately. You had 6 years of private. You used it to hide me. He reached for my arm. I looked at his hand. He dropped it good at the doorway. I turned back. One more thing. The house access codes have changed. Your belongings will be packed and delivered through a service. If you enter without permission, I will treat it as trespassing. Patricia gasped. Adrian looked stunned. You cannot throw me out. I am not throwing you out. I said, I am recognizing that you already left. Celeste's eyes shone with fury, not tears. Fury. You will regret this, she said. I looked at her silver dress, her perfect hair, her hunger dressed as elegance. No, I said you will. I left before dessert on the drive home. Mara called. How was dinner? Educational. That bad? Worse? They wanted me to move out, so Celeste could help repair his image. Mara was silent. Then she said, Good. I almost laughed. Good. They are showing intent. Write everything down as soon as you get home. I will. And Nora? Yes. Do not let Adrian into the house tonight. I glanced at the rear view mirror. A pair of headlights had turned. When I turned, my stomach tightened. Why? Because men who realize the house is not. There's often come to test the door. The headlights followed me for 3 more blocks. Then my phone lit up. Adrian. I did not answer. A text appeared. We're not done. I looked at the road ahead, at the dark ribbon leading home, at the life waiting for me behind a blue door he no longer had the code to open. I replied once. Yes, Adrian. We are. Adrian came to Mara's office with 2 attorneys and the expression of a man prepared to be generous with things that did not belong to him. I came with 1 lawyer, 1 folder, and no ring. The conference room overlooked downtown. Adrian used to love views like that. He said height helped people think bigger. I had learned that height also made some men forget the ground holding them up. His lead attorney, Martin Price, began politely. We are hoping to avoid unnecessary escalation. Mara smiled. Then your client should stop creating necessary evidence. Martin blinked. Adrienne's jaw tightened. I looked out the window and waited. The old Nora would have filled the silence. She would have softened the room, explained feelings, tried to make everyone comfortable. I had retired her. Martin opened a folder. Mr. Grant acknowledges that the gala incident was unfortunate. Unfortunate, Mara repeated. A rainstorm is unfortunate. Publicly allowing your mistress to degrade your legal wife and child is actionable. Adrian looked at me. Must we use that word mistress? I asked. Would you prefer consultant with access to your hotel suite? His attorneys shifted. Adrienne's face hardened. That is not productive. No, I said, but it is accurate. Martin cleared his throat. We propose a cooling-off period. No divorce filing for 90 days. No public statements. No changes to existing financial arrangements. Mr. Grant will spend scheduled time with the child while the parties privately assess the marriage. The child has a name, I said. Martin looked at his paper. Leo Hawthorne Grant. Adrian flinched at the middle name. Mara slid a document across the table. Before we discuss anything else, Mr. Grant needs to sign. Temporary conduct, terms regarding Leo. No denial of paternity, public or private. No exposure to MS Vale. No unsupervised media events. Written communication only foreling. Adrian leaned back. This is insulting. What is insulting? I said. Is a father needing a contract to acknowledge his son? His eyes flashed. I never denied him. Mara opened another folder and placed printed text messages on the table. Do not use my son against me. You are making him part of something he cannot understand. This is why I wanted him kept private. Mara tapped the last line. Private is not the same as protected. Martin frowned slightly. He had not seen all of it. Good. Let Adrian surprise his own counsel. Adrian rubbed a hand over his mouth. Those were sent in anger. Then sign the terms while calm. I said. He stared at me. You have changed. He said. No. I stopped translating your behavior into excuses. For a moment, the room held something almost intimate. Grief. Maybe not the soft kind. The kind with teeth. Then Martin moved on. Regarding finances, Mr. Grant is concerned about sudden changes to family support. Which family? Mara asked his mother's support. That support came from Mrs. Grant's personal account and was voluntary. Adrian spoke sharply. My mother depended on that money. I looked at him. Your mother raised a son who earns more in a month than many families earn in a year. She can depend on you. You know her expenses are complicated. No, I know you prefer me paying them because it kept you from arguing with her. He had no answer. Mara produced the bank records. Page after page. Patricia's medical premiums, house repairs, credit card payments, country club fees hidden as professional networking, a transfer to Adrienne's sister after her second rehab discharge. I had not resented helping at first. Families help. Love helps. But help becomes exploitation when gratitude disappears and entitlement takes its place. Martin reviewed the records, his face becoming more neutral by the second. Then Mara placed the loan agreement on the table. Now Grant Meridian Adrian sat up. Company matters are separate. No, Mara said. You made them marital when you pressured Mrs. Grant to approve funding based on spousal trust while hiding material reputational risks, including a public relationship with MS Vale that could affect donor confidence. Martin looked at Adrian that one was new to him too. Mara continued, the Hawthorne Legacy Trust is under no obligation to renew discretionary support. Mrs. Grant has recused herself from unilateral approval and moved the matter to manual review. Adrian stared at me. You froze the review. I required accountability. You know what that could do. Yes, my employees. Do not put them between us. You did that enough with Leo. His face tightened. There it was. The old tactic. Turn his needs into innocent people. If I did not pay Patricia, I was cruel to an old woman. If I did not renew trust support, I was hurting workers. If I demanded public honesty, I was damaging the company. Men like Adrian did not ask for sacrifice. They framed refusal as violence. Mara slid another document forward. Mrs. Grant is willing to consider an orderly transition plan for any legitimate business obligations, provided Mr. Grant agrees to full disclosure, personal repayment where applicable, and immediate cessation of any use of the Hawthorne name and materials created by MS Vale or her firm. Adrian looked at the page, then at me. You would dismantle everything we built. No, I said. I am separating what I built from what you betrayed. His voice lowered. I loved you. I felt the sentence pass through me and find no place to land. Maybe I said, but you loved the version of me that made your life easier. That is not true. Then say it here. He looked wary. Say what? Say I am your wife. The room went still. Mara did not move. Martin looked down Adrienne's throat. Worked. I waited. 6 years of waiting had trained me for silence. Finally, he said, this is a legal meeting. I smiled and something inside me closed gently. Yes, I said, it is. Mara placed the divorce petition on the table. Martin took it. Adrian did not. For the first time that morning, his confidence cracked. You filed? Yes. When yesterday he stared at the petition as if the paper had betrayed him. Nora. No. Eleanor. His eyes lifted. I saw anger first, then fear, then a grief. I might have pitted if it had arrived before humiliation. You do not want this. He said, I do. You are angry. I am clear. You are destroying Leo's family. That almost worked. Not because it was true, because mothers carry guilt in places men learn to press without looking. But then I remembered Leo under the reading table asking if he was a secret. I looked at Adrian and said, I am ending the arrangement that taught him love means hiding. No one spoke. Mara broke the silence. We will proceed with temporary custody terms. Mr. Grant may respond through counsel. Adrian pushed back his chair. This is not over. I gathered my documents. You keep saying that. It is starting to sound like a man arguing with a locked door. He left first through the glass wall. I watched him stop near the elevators and pull out his phone. I knew before he spoke that he was calling Celeste. Not his mother. Not his son. Celeste. Mara came to stand beside me. Are you all right? No. Good answer. I looked at her. She handed me a tissue. I had not realized I needed. Being all right too soon is usually another form of denial. She said, I laughed once and it turned into a breath that hurt. Does it get easier? No. Mara said, it gets cleaner. That afternoon, I picked Leo up early and took him to the park. He ran toward the swings, then came back to ask if I would push him. I did higher. He said, I pushed higher. I pushed again. His laughter rose into the cold air. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You think Alasta as her child for revenge. No signature again. There did not need to be. I took a screenshot and sent it to Mara. Then I blocked the number. Leo shouted, "Mom, look." He had pumped his legs and lifted himself higher without my hands. I watched him fly forward, small and fierce against the afternoon sky for the first time all week. I smiled. Celeste had built her life on misreading rooms. She was good at surfaces. That was what made her dangerous at first. She knew which donors liked handwritten thank you notes, which journalists preferred exclusive whispers, which wives tolerated flirtation as long as it stayed decorative, and which men wanted to be described as visionary rather than rich. But she misread roots. She thought power was the person standing under the brightest light. She did not understand the person who paid the electric bill. Her mistake became clear on a rainy Tuesday when Mara forwarded me an email chain from a junior associate at Celeste's firm. The associate's note was frantic. I believe these materials may have used an authorized donor language. I do not want to be implicated attached to a drafts. So many drafts. Celeste had prepared a full rebranding plan for Grant Meridian's philanthropic expansion. The proposal listed Adrian as founder and public chairman, Celeste as community-facing partner, and the Hawthorne Legacy Trust as heritage collaborator. Heritage collaborator. My family's trust reduced to decorative ancestry for a woman who had called my son a tactic. I scrolled. There were sample speeches. Adrian, Celeste has helped me understand that legacy is not what we inherit, but what we dare to claim. I nearly laughed. Dare to claim was one way to describe theft. Then I reached a page labeled Transition Narrative. The language was careful. Adrian Grant has long carried private family obligations with discretion. As he steps into a more public philanthropic role, he will be joined by Celeste Vale, whose modern vision aligns with the future of the Hawthorne Grant Initiative. Private family obligations. That was me. That was Leo. Not wife. Not son. Obligations. I forwarded the packet to Margaret. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Absolutely not. Then come to the trust office tomorrow. The Hawthorne Legacy Trust occupied the top 3 floors of an old brick building. My grandfather refused to sell when developers turned the surrounding blocks into glass. Its lobby smelled faintly of waxed wood and rain. My father used to say new money needed height, but old responsibility needed foundations. I had not been there in person for months. That was another concession I had made to Adrian. He said my presence at trust meetings made people speculate. He was right. They speculated that the person with authority might use it. Margaret met me in the boardroom with 2 other trustees, Daniel Cho and Priya. Both had known my father. Both looked furious in a controlled, professional way that frightened me more than shouting. Priya tapped Celeste's proposal. This is not merely social overreach. This suggests intent to create public association without authorization. Daniel added, Grant Meridian's current support review should be suspended pending reputational and compliance assessment. I sat at the end of the table where my father used to sit for years. I had avoided that chair. It had felt too large that day. I pulled it out and sat down. We suspend. I said, not terminate yet. I want the process clean. Margaret nodded with approval. No emotional decisions. I continued. Full documentation. Notice to Grant Meridian. Request for disclosures. And a cease and desist to Celeste's firm regarding Hawthorne language. Priya smiled slightly. Your father would have enjoyed that sentence. My throat tightened. My father would have asked why I waited this long. No, Margaret said. He would have asked who taught you to think patience meant disappearance. I looked at the rain streaking the windows. Adrian did not start that lesson. I said quietly, he just benefited from it. After the meeting, Margaret walked me to the elevator. There is something else, she said. I looked at her. Celeste RSVP to the Hawthorne Legacy dinner next month. I blinked. She what? As Adrienne's guest. The nerve of it was almost impressive. The Hawthorne Legacy annual dinner was not a public gala. It was smaller, older, more serious hospital directors, scholarship, recipients, city partners, trustees, and families whose names appeared on buildings because someone dead had once cared about something more than profit. Adrian had attended twice as my husband, though never publicly introduced that way. He preferred being listed as a corporate partner. Now, Celeste intended to walk into that room on his arm again. The difference was that this time she would be walking into my house. Let the RSVP stand, I said. Margaret's eyes sharpened. Are you sure? Yes. On the drive home, Adrian called 3 times. I did not answer. He texted, "We need to talk about what you are doing to the company." I wrote, "Your counsel can contact Mara." He replied, "Stop hiding behind lawyers." I almost smiled. A man who hid me for 6 years now objected to barriers. That evening, after Leo went to sleep, I opened the old cedar chest in my bedroom. Inside were my mother's letters, my father's fountain pen, and a stack of photographs from the early years with Adrian. Us outside the courthouse, us eating pizza on the floor of his first office, Adrian holding newborn Leo in the hospital, tears on his face. That photograph hurt because I remembered that day he had cried. He had kissed Leo's forehead. He had whispered, "He is perfect." Then 2 days later, when I asked about a birth announcement, he said, "Let's wait. The company is fragile. Investors get nervous about personal drama. Personal drama. A baby." I took the photograph from the stack and turned it over on the back. In my handwriting, I had written Adrian meets Leo, May 14th. Proof can be tender before it becomes legal. The doorbell rang at 9:17 p.m. I checked the camera. Celeste stood on my porch under a black umbrella for a moment. I considered ignoring her. Then I pressed record and opened the door with the chain on. She looked less polished than usual, still beautiful, but strained around the mouth. "You are making a mistake," she said. "No greeting. This is not a game. You mailed the invitation. You should have known that." Rain dotted her coat. "You think those trustees respect you?" she asked. "They respect your dead father's money, and yet you seem very eager to attach yourself to it." Her eyes narrowed. "I love Adrian." "No, I said you love being chosen in public." That landed. She stepped closer. "You had him for years and did nothing with him. I had a husband. I did not realize I was expected to market him. You held him back. I funded him. You made him small." "No, I said I made him safe enough to become arrogant." Her face flushed. Then she smiled, and it was ugly because it was honest. "Once the divorce is done, people will forget you. Adrian will still be Adrian Grant. And you will be what? His wife." "You sound very sure." "I am." I tilted my head. "Did he propose?" Her silence was brief but revealing. "No," I said softly. "He let you sit in my chair. That is not the same thing." She slapped the door, or the chain rattled. I did not move. "Listen to me," she said. "You are not special because of a name. You are a woman." He got tired of there. It was the sentence she had come to deliver. Maybe she expected me to break instead. I felt something almost like pity. "Celeste," I said, "you keep thinking this is a contest for Adrian. That is why you are going to lose." Her lips parted. "I am not fighting to keep him," I said. "I am deciding what he loses when I let him go." For the first time, fear entered her eyes. I closed the door. Then I saved the recording. The first sign of Grant Meridian's panic was not Adrian. It was his CFO. At 8:12 on Monday morning, Philip Sloan sent an email marked urgent to my trust account, copying Adrian, 2 board members, and someone from Legal Dear Mrs. Hawthorne Grant. We were surprised to receive notice that the Hawthorne Legacy Trust has placed the bridge facility renewal under compliance review given the long-standing partnership between our organizations. We hope this is an administrative error. Administrative error that was what people called a woman's boundary. When they were used to her generosity, I forwarded the email to Margaret and Mara. Then I replied, "Dear Mr. Sloan, the review is intentional. Please direct all required disclosures to the Trust Compliance Office by Friday at 5 p.m. Regards, Eleanor Hawthorne Grant." I stared at the signature before sending not Nora, not a ghost, Eleanor. The second sign was Patricia. She sent me a voicemail at 10:30 a.m. Her voice trembled with outrage disguised as injury. "Nora, I do not know who is advising you, but this behavior is beneath you. Adrian has pressures you cannot understand. A wife supports her husband. A mother protects her child from scandal. If you continue, you will ruin your own family." I saved the voicemail. Then I blocked her for 24 hours. The third sign was Adrian himself. He arrived at Westbrook at noon and did not ring the bell. He stood outside the gate and called. I answered from the kitchen where I was making Leo grilled cheese. "You cannot hold the company hostage," he said. "I am not holding anything. I am reviewing risk. Do not talk to me like a trustee. That is the capacity in which your CFO contacted me." He inhaled sharply. "We have payroll. Then submit disclosures. You know, we cannot reveal sensitive negotiations that quickly. Then you should not have allowed an authorized use of trust language in public donor materials. That was Celeste's team. Your team hired her. She made mistakes. So did you." His voice dropped. "Come outside." "No, I am not leaving until we talk." I flipped the sandwich. "You are standing in front of a camera and a locked gate. Choose your afternoon accordingly." "Nora, damn it." Leo came into the kitchen holding a drawing. "Mom, is that Daddy?" I muted the phone. "Yes." "Is he coming in?" "No." Leo looked at the floor because of the shiny lady. I set the spatula down and crouched because grown-ups need to fix grown-up problems before they come inside. He thought about that. "Did he say sorry?" "No." Leo nodded as if that confirmed a theory. "Then he should stay outside. Children can be ruthless when adults finally give them facts." I unmuted the phone. Adrian was still speaking. "Not just about us. This affects hundreds of people." "I agree," I said. "That is why the review needs to be clean." "You are enjoying this?" I looked at the sandwich, burning slightly at the edge. "No. I am feeding our son lunch while you stand outside demanding access to a house. You tried to move your mistress into silence, then quietly. I never agreed to that. You never stopped it. That is not the same. It is when silence clears the room for her." He said my name then. Not Nora. Not Eleanor. Something in between. Broken by frustration. "I do not know how we got here." I almost answered. I almost gave him the map. "We got here when you asked me to stay home from the first investor dinner. We got here when you let your mother call Leo uncertain. We got here when you stopped wearing your ring to events. We got here when you chose the woman who flattered your public self over the woman who knew your frightened one. But explaining the road to someone who drove it is unpaid labor. So I said, you got here one choice at a time.